Anxiety may move through your mind and body, but it's not the whole of you. It's just one part of your story, not your identity. In today's episode of Anxiety Slayer, we explore an empowering truth that you are so much more than the anxiety you experience. Welcome back, Ananga.
Hey, Shan.
We have lots of ideas and practices to share with you today to help you remember that you can live well with anxiety.
Yeah, I think for me, born anxious, very anxious as a child. And something that was a huge turning point for me was when I started reading the Bhagavad Gita and understanding that I wasn't my mind and I wasn't my body. I think the really difficult thing with anxiety is it gets tangled up with our identity. And we think it's me, what's wrong with me, or we think we're broken, when really our body and mind are dealing with what they're dealing with and maybe feeling stressed, overwhelmed, intensely anxious, but it's still not us. It's not our identity. And that was a big turning point for me, that understanding.
And that your worth as a human being is not determined by the anxious moments that you experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all experience anxiety on occasion, and it's a spectrum, of course, of how much you're dealing with, how much you're experiencing, but there's always so much more to you and your worth than any anxious moment that you've ever experienced. So try not to be hard on yourself when anxiety rears its head, and do what you know you need to do to support yourself.
Yeah, I think that the real challenge with anxiety is that it's so loud, isn't it? It's so loud and it's so felt, it's so invasive. It's insidious too. It can kind of sneak into our mind and take over. And it'll start whispering fears, future predictions that we might dread, things that we're not comfortable about. It'll flag sensations in our body. And then once it's got our attention, it really escalates. And then it can be quite challenging to disentangle ourselves from it and non-identify with it.
There's a question that I learned recently from a friend who said, what if nothing is wrong right now? So when your anxiety crops up about sensations in your body, for instance, instead of letting yourself go down the rabbit hole of what is this, and creating or using Dr. Google or all of the things that we do, what if you ask yourself, what if nothing is wrong right now? And what does my body know that my mind wants to argue with? Because we give so much power to our mind.
Yeah, because it's such a sneaky, to quote one of my favorite monks, a sneaky ventriloquist. It's so sneaky, and it knows how to whisper, and it knows how to sound like us, how to sound like our voice. And then we're like bonded in with it. Talk about trauma bonding. Some internal trauma bonding. And then it's just, yeah, it's very hard to trust the truth and the fact of here and now and our intuition, because it just gets drowned out by the noise of the mind. I find what really helps is to consciously invest every day in something bigger than the mind, bigger and deeper. Work on our roots, work on what really has meaning for us in our life, whether that's a spiritual path, an educational path, something else, but to really have something there that stands strong for us, where we can draw strength from it, but also invest our attention. Instead of investing our attention, our focus on what might be wrong. When you say, what if everything's okay? To then look at what is okay.
Right. What's right about this I'm not getting?
Yeah, let's gather positive evidence, because the mind at the speed of light will gather a stack of negative evidence. So we need to have something on the other side of the scales to tip that the right way. We need to gather the good, gather gratitude, gather strength, gather spiritual education, whatever. For me, that's where I go. But wherever you go, where you feel strong and good and safe.
Right now, I'm gathering that from my garden, from my favorite tree, watching the the maple leaves unfurl, having my hands in the dirt, realizing I'm creating and co-creating with the earth and with the plants, a lovely space. That to me is meaningful and joyful, and it brings my family joy. And and just by sharing that, that will take me on a whole other list of things that I really enjoy that help me stay grounded and then also are a gift to others, whether that be cooking or whether that be meeting a friend for lunch or just being in that space of, oh, how blessed am I that I get to do this, that I get to have this food and make it and enjoy it, and how blessed I am that I can go meet a friend for lunch or that I can go to the nursery and buy a few plants. Those things, I know they seem so small, Ananga, but they're full of purpose.
I personally don't find them small. I live in the small treasures. I consider it like panning for gold, those bright, small moments. And as you were talking about, you go to your garden and start there and start to appreciate the beauty there and being with nature, and then it goes to somewhere else and somewhere else for you. I was thinking, yeah, the way you're describing it is generative. Like anxiety can be generative or explosive, actually, it can be. But what you're describing is something positively generative, where you start here and then it leads to this and it leads to this, and it's all good. And it's all things we can be grateful for, or things that might be helpful to others. Another thing with anxiety is it turns us in on ourselves and isolates us. And I'm always very happy when it's less me and more we.
Yes.
And whenever we can do something for somebody else, even if it's just lend an ear, a hug, some respect, some understanding, whatever it is, cupcakes, soup, whatever it is, to do something for somebody else is an amazing antidote for anxiety, because anxiety folds us into this horrible self-awareness, which isn't good to live with.
No, it's not. And it's such an invitation to get out of your own way
Mm-hmm.
by being in community and by just these little generous acts that bring us so much joy.
When we can't see the small things as valuable, we're really in trouble, because then we're just looking for bigger, louder, better external stuff, and that never satisfies. So we're really impoverished if we can't see the joy in the good and little things.
Yeah. It's also important for us to share the practice of shifting what's wrong with me to how can I care for myself right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one thing to talk about all of these things, that little things that bring us joy, but also to be mindful of that, because in our Facebook group and over the years, there's so many sweet souls that are just sure that they're broken or that there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
When the shift is, wait a minute, how can I care for myself right now? How can I care for myself right now?
Yeah. Well, sometimes really it's when anxiety comes up like that and we feel broken, it's information that we're out of balance, and we might be way out of balance, but we're not broken. But if you know you're out of balance, then you have the opportunity to explore how to regain balance. We might need some help with that. But even just looking there, okay, what can I do to help myself? It's a shift from fear to compassion and to possibility.
Hmm,
And that feels very different.
it sure does. Well, and that's where all of the practices that we've shared over the years to build self-compassion that will help support healing and resilience. There's just from the gratitude journaling to reading uplifting books to listening to beautiful music to breathing exercises, tapping, yoga, qigong, all of these beautiful, compassionate practices. Even if you can only fit in one thing for a couple of minutes, it's going to make a difference. And then over time, you'll have this beautiful toolkit that you can draw on that will bring you back to that place of, oh, you know what? I am just a little out of balance right now. And you know what really helps? Oh my goodness. I need a glass of water. I've forgotten to hydrate. I mean, it's sometimes the silliest, simplest things.
Yeah, and to just, give ourselves a break where we're all human, and all humans, whether we admit it or not, whether we've got coping strategies that cover it or not, all humans experience anxiety. And the thing is with anxiety, again, it's loud. And then it will tell us that the little things won't help because anxiety feels so big, but it's not true. Little things do help, and they build up and they join together, and, just gather more and more and more and crowd the anxiety out with the good. It's not always easy because it is so awful when it really kicks in. It's such a horrible experience and it really can take over our awareness. But that's where we need to break the spell and reach out to somebody. And my advice with anxiety when it's really running high is don't try and figure it out. Don't stay alone in your head and try and figure it out and think more. Go for a walk, take a deep breath, talk to somebody, exercise it. Not, exercise like a demon and exercise like taking a dog for a walk, both. They sound the same, but it's hard on a podcast sometimes because they're different words, but they sound the same. But both, shine light on the darkness and move. Because anxiety will freeze you. It will freeze you in a corner. We can't think our way out of it. We need help. And that it can just be a good friend or listening to something with a different perspective. As one of my favorite go-tos is to put something good in my ears other than my own internal monologue.
Me too. Why I like access consciousness so much, and having been a student now and practicing for all these years, there's just any number of classes and wonderful meditations that I can listen to and just be right back into, oh, yeah, even though I'm feeling anxious right now, there's so much more that I can invite in. There's so much more here that will help quell that. I was telling you before we started recording today that the first few months of the year were a bit of a challenge for me, heavier than normal mentally. uh, The weather, the political scene, et cetera, et cetera. And having the weather break and being able to do the things that I love with the plants and with the plant medicine changed so much so quickly. And I have so much gratitude for that. And I know that that's a thing for many of us. The the um, the winter time and the exposure to negativity in the media and in the political scene, et cetera. That is what it is, but there's so much more. And where do I go from here? And even though that experience was uncomfortable, what a blessing to be in a different space and time right now.
Yeah. It's always harder, isn't it, when things are troubling us in the winter and we can't really get outside and move. We have to find something inside to do that feels bright. That can be a little bit challenging. We have to be a bit more creative and a bit more determined with that. But now, for most of us in the Northern Hemisphere, we've got this opportunity to be outside. Really helps at this time of year after all those cold, grey months to be able to change it up in the mind, put some light in the mind, some light and good.
And EFT tapping is such a beautiful practice for positive outcomes and new beginnings and the realization that you are so much more than your anxiety. And I'm going to be recording a full tapping session that will be available on our Patreon this week. But right now, I'd like to just share some of the setup statements that you can use if you want to tap before that's available. And Ananga, if you have anything that you'd like to add for the tapping, please do.
Just a reminder that you can find more information on our website at anxietyslayer.com/EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. And tapping is a great way of turning down anxiety, but also increasing our sense of resourcefulness and switching out our internal dialogue. So, yeah, it's a great thing to experiment with. And I'm grateful that you've put these opening statements together.
It just feels like something that might be useful and helpful. And I like these statements, whether I'm physically tapping or not. It's something that I can loop in my mind, and has brought me a lot of peace. And if you've already been tapping, or if you want to learn to tap again, we have lots of tapping sessions actually that have already been recorded that you can search for on our website. You can also find them on our Patreon, and then you can get this new offering this week as well. But here are some of the positive setup statements. And it really begins with, even though I feel anxiety in my mind and body, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And I am more than my anxious thoughts. I am strong even when I feel tender. I am open to new beginnings and fresh possibilities. I honor how far I've come. I trust myself to handle what comes my way. Peace is available to me in this moment. I choose to live well, even with anxiety. And then a closing affirmation would be, I am whole, wise, and capable. I carry hope, love, and resilience with me. So even if you were to repeat that on a loop, I mean, hopefully you notice a change in how you feel just listening to me read those statements. I know I do.
Yeah. The thing is, the mind's going to loop anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're anxious, it's going to loop more, and it's going to loop with unpleasant thoughts. So we may as well switch them up. Let it loop with something good. You and I used to joke together about what we called the jukebox of horrors.
Right?
The mind had all those records lined up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just going to start playing them. So, yeah, just upgrade the jukebox, the internal jukebox, change your internal dialogue, whatever helps.
Right.
And notice and write it down, stick it in your journal. I did this and it helped.
Mm-hmm. If today's episode speaks to you, we invite you to take a deep breath, place a hand over your heart, and remember, you are not alone. You are not broken. You are loved, and you are so much more than what your anxious mind might tell you. Thank you so much for listening to Anxiety Slayer. If you find our podcast supportive, please share it with a friend who could use a little extra care today.